Hi, this is Privateer Station, and this morning we're bringing you the third part of an interview that ex-Russian oligarch and billionaire Sergey Pugachev gave to a famous Ukrainian journalist, Dmitry Gordon. Original interview aired on the 21st of September. In this part, he talks about the prospects of war, internal failures to mobilize in Russia, and more details of Putin's inner circle. This one is brought to you by the voice of Lana. Enjoy.
Going back to his speech, Sergei Viktorovich, for partial mobilization, Shoigu announced 300,000 people. Do you believe Russians will accept it? Yesterday, someone posted in Twitter, if they cannot organize his appearance, how they are going to organize mobilization? I personally don't believe in this. I believe it's impossible. I perfectly understand rotten system. Actually, the Minister of Defense, not only Minister of Defense, but the whole state. As we discussed before, at the beginning, that many political committee consist of physical education teacher, former secretary, high strength there will be director of SB and secretary of Security Council, marshal who never served in army. So all these disabled people already showed what they're capable of. If they cannot collect convicts, how they will manage ordinary people? Meaning mobilization will fail. For sure, important to understand that this opens a third front inside Russia, because it won't be easy to explain them that it's their duty to fight for some territories in Ukraine which were just added to Russia. You get it, right? Sure. Today, some media agency, Desna, announced public protests all over Russia. Do you believe that after mobilization started, Russians will participate in such protests? No, I don't think so. I don't even think this is the way for Russia at all. I'm sure the only solution and natural solution would be to change this country would be complete defeat in this war with Ukraine. Nothing else will help. Some local protests might happen, or signing petition in Twitter, etc. But in the war of such scale with cannibals, it won't work. Hoping that those sheeps who obey mobilization will somehow protest, unrealistic. They might burn military offices and kill few policemen, but nothing globally effective. This is not Ukraine. This is oppressed Russia. Sergei Viktorovich, let's imagine they will organize referendum. They will. Then they announce they gather some handicaps who want to live in Russia. Then they announce parts of Khersonskaya, Zaporozhskaya, Donetskaya, Luganskaya regions, Russian territories. Okay, then Ukrainian forces continue attack those territories, most likely successfully, as very important events are coming soon. No details on that for now. So we attack, and what? Putin will use nuclear weapon? Of course not. Remember, he said if threat is pushed in the corner, it became aggressive. Indeed, this threat is Putin, and this is his condition at the moment. Though let's remember, he's not alone on this sinking boat, and he's bluffing knowingly. The fact he verbalized that, saying it's not a bluff, just a confirmation that it is. Saying I'm not joking as usual, not like before, but now I'm serious, I'm not joking. Come on. Such decisions are not up to him, not his personal. But let's imagine, even if he wanted to suicide, which he's definitely not capable of, come on, not even to start some war on such scale. This is another München speech from bunker by Skype. This is message actually to, not to us, it's to NATO, saying like, guys, we are stuck. Let's find a solution because we will drop freaking bomb. These all just empty promises. But the consequences of this message are enormous. From this moment on, it's a war with the whole civilized world. In a sense, he declared Third World War. No matter referendum, Western countries already stated they won't recognize that, and it would be strange if they would. It is rave. He could call Donetsk, Lugansk territories of Russia long time ago, but it doesn't matter. This was his last shot. As much as it's unexpected, but this message is a cry for help. And I'm sure that there are some people, even in their own initiatives, who are looking for contacts in Western world to negotiate. And that conversation could look like this, like, guys, this situation is not escalated enough. The war in Ukrainian Kherson is not on the level to get negotiations in Washington. Something like this. Interesting. This is a real message. I've heard that closest person to Putin works on Secret Service of America and inform about all his moves, even mentioned name Patrushev. Do you think it's possible? Patrushev always had contacts in United States with the secret services. He often traveled to America. Obviously, he considers Putin a loser and fool. He doesn't consider him the president. I would say Patrushev plays his own game. Not in a way he betrays some state secrets, stealing from Putin's office. No, not really. He always was a competitor to Putin. I guess Patrushev realized that being almost 3 years in a bunker, Putin is isolated completely, even if he pretended to watch something on the computer. And that gives Patrushev advantage, because he is actively communicate with the public, would give him a chance to be in opposition and different, and organize some alliance, etc. So now talking about betray, I don't think so, because Patrushev is an old-school Soviet KGB officer, and at this age, around 80, it's unlikely that he will change. There are many discussions around subject when this war will end. Majority of experts say it could take many months or even years. Recently, I interviewed former U.S. ambassador in Ukraine, John Herbst. So he said that it could be even 10 years. My personal God plus analysis tells me it continues maybe another couple of months. Because there is a sense of inevitable crash of Russian state, which possibly ends in 1 or 2 months, and then success of our army and capability of Russian army and Putin's defeat on inside front create pretty strong feeling of end of the war very soon. What is your opinion on this subject, especially after Putin's speech? I understand the former US Ambassador Herbst made his conclusion on previous armed conflicts in Prидnestrovye, Karabakh, and so on, but they were long frozen crises. The question is what kind of war we are talking about. Today's war is a hot phase, and success of Ukrainian army obviously indicates near end. This war we call the war of attrition. Russian army was exhausted even before the war. Nowadays it doesn't exist. Imagine more than 1,000 kilometers of front line and maybe 150,000 of infantry. They still play a very important role, not artillery. And the war depends on how and where they move, and not what Putin said on TV. I would say this is a different war, not like in Pridnestrovye. Maybe on some stage this conflict could be frozen, but not a war itself. The war won't go for 10 years. I'm not sure about 2 months either, but because Ukraine is lacking, unfortunately, modern weapons from NATO. The issues of Russian army and success of Ukrainian could result in end of the war in several months. If Russians will be forced to borderline of February 24, that will mean end of the war. If maybe it could be done with the help of mediation, like United Nations, if it still exists, or other allies, many wish for that role. But it means resolution of inside issues of Russia, change of regime, not just removal of Putin. You should know he's not Stalin. Putin's resignation doesn't change anything. He's kind of a collective image. Just because he's there for over 20 years, it doesn't mean he rules and created regime. It's completely opposite. Those people, collective Putin, won't go anywhere without complete defeat in this war. But going back to previous discussion, that from today, it's basically a hot phase of the world war, because today Ukraine, NATO, and Russian people, surprisingly, are on the same side. Trust me. If collective Putin will lose in that war, all doubts were finished today with his speech. Last question. Putin is finished? Obviously, his end was on February 24. If he could be like an honorable general of Soviet army, he should suicide. But at the same time, he plays unfamiliar role for him. He doesn't know this. All these speeches, and he couldn't even slam the door and leave like Gorbachev did. And he cannot say, I'm tired of this game and I'm leaving. He's not even Yeltsin. He's like that. He's exactly like that rat that he described. Besides barking on everyone around, he cannot do anything. This is a huge illusion that Putin is Tsar, a decision maker who gives orders to minister what to do. That was a myth. It was a myth that was convenient for many until now. I received many comments that how it could be Putin is such loser and fool as he is in power for over 20 years. Well, the truth is that Putin is not in the power. He delegated that power everyone around. And this environment made decisions. And so I assume that if he would continue his presidency 10 years more if February 24th didn't happen. Everyone was happy near him, as he is a person who never says no. He knows there is no need in that. Imagine he was swimming in his Gelendzhik residency bath and suddenly he starts a war. Can you imagine that difference? Could we predict how he will finish? I hope for international criminal proceedings. Not because I really wanted that, but because he's a submissive kind of person. He goes with the flow. He's a kind of person who would be the last to know what happened to him. And I don't see anyone around him who could make a sacrifice for him. I know all of them, and I'm sure they will not. Kashpirovsky used to say, go with the flow. We'll see where this flow bring him. He does go with the flow all his life. What happened with him now, they say, we say better horrible ending than endless horror. I mean, horrible ending for Putin and endless horror for Russia, which during his 23 years of terror was suppressed, destroyed, eviscerated, and drawn into Third World War. Sergei Viktorovich, thank you very much, and I'm going to take a glass of good wine for our victory and his horrible ending. Well, I will join you.
Слава Україні, героям слава!